Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Brewer's Minute. So this week is the first of a new sub-series I want to do for Brewer's Minute, and I don't know how often it'll come up, every once in a while when the mood strikes, but we are going to be looking at a specific set and trying to find a handful of hidden treasures, basically cards that have some sort of potential in most likely modern, but in constructed formats, but currently don't really see a lot of play. And I should warn you now, I don't have deck lists. It's not like I can say, oh, here's this card, here's exactly how to use it. But I have some ideas. So we'll talk about the card, talk about why it has potential, what we can potentially do with it. And then, if you have some sweet ideas of decks that can make use of these cards, or even just other cards from the set that you think have potential, make sure to let me know in the comments. So for our first episode of Hidden Treasures, we are going back to the very first set of Modern, and that is the artifact-infested world of Mirrodin. So a quick reminder before we break down Hidden Treasures of Mirrodin, if you enjoy Brewer's Minute and the other series here on the channel, it would be amazing of you if you could take a quick second, click that subscribe button down in the corner of your screen. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So let's talk Hidden Treasures Mirrodin, and coming in at number 5 on our list, we have a classic, and that is Atog. So Atog lets you sacrifice an artifact to get +2/+2. So it's a free artifact sacrifice outlet on an efficient body. And you're probably wondering, why is this random uncommon exciting? And the reason is kind of convoluted. It's not so much because Atog is an insane card, but because we just got Ravenous Intruder printed in Aether Revolt. So now we have 8 Togs. And that's one of the things about brewing and finding new decks, is when Wizards gives us redundancy in a potentially powerful effect, we really need to stand up and take notice. So how would we potentially use this? The good news is there's a ton of cheap artifacts or even free artifacts that we can cast in Modern, sack to our Atog or our Ravenous Intruder, our redundant Ravenous Intruder, and pump up our Atog. And most of these also draw us cards. We have stuff like Chromatic Sphere, the Implement Cycle, Terrarions, Ichor Wellspring. So this gets our Atog really big. We can use Scrap Trawler to generate even more value by getting artifacts back from our graveyard. There's ways to reduce the cost of colorless spells or artifact spells like Ethereum Sculptor. And we can even throw in Shrapnel Blast as a removal spell / go to the face and do some more damage. And then maybe we finish all of that off with Fling, or we can even just make Atog unblockable and attack our opponent and win that way. So I think that there is potential with Atog because we have 8 of those, and when you have 8 of an effect, it's pretty easy to build around it. So number 5 Hidden Treasure of Mirrodin is Atog / Ravenous Intruder, coming in at number 4 on our list, and this one I don't know what to do with it, but number 4 on our list, Trash for Treasure. So 3 mana, sack an artifact, reanimate an artifact. Whenever you see reanimation effects that are so aggressively costed, especially for Modern, it's worth taking notice. I have no idea what we should be reanimating with our Trash for Treasure. There are a lot of expensive artifacts. I mean, something like turn 2 Possess Portal, maybe an Inkwell Leviathan, something along those lines has a lot of potential. The question is how to actually make it worth the effort. The good news is we have Mox Opals. It's really easy to cast this on turn 2, on turn 3, and have an artifact to sacrifice. So while I'm not sure the best way to use this, I think that it definitely has potential to be in a competitive deck. Maybe it's something with Madcap Moon and Platinum Empyrean. It's a way you can get your Empyreans back from the graveyard if they die, or a different build of that deck that is somehow taking advantage of the graveyard. So I don't know, but I know for 3 mana, reanimating something has potential to do some crazy things. So for that reason, number 4 on our list of Mirrodin Hidden Treasures is Trash for Treasure. So number 3 on our list, and this one's a little bit weird, we have Mirror Incubator. And Mirror Incubator is kind of a 6 mana do nothing. 6 mana, you get an artifact. If you can pay 6 more, tap and sack it, you can exile any number of artifacts from your graveyard and get that many 1/1 colorless mirror artifact tokens. So if you have a deck full of artifacts, you can potentially just make 20 or more power, split across a bunch of bodies on your opponent's end step, win the game. And this was actually part of a real deck back in 2004 in Standard. This actually performed really well at Worlds. I think went undefeated in the Standard portion of Worlds with the help of Crack Clan Ironworks, making a bunch of mana. But I think we could make use of this. The opportunity cost of having a deck full of artifacts isn't that high, because like we talked about with Atog, you have all these implements and chromatic spheres and terrarions, so there's all these random artifacts that just kind of cycle through your deck, and then we have the ability to just win the game for 6 mana once we get down our Mirror Incubator. So I don't know the exact way of building this deck, but I think there's definitely a power level there where Mirror Incubator could be a finisher in a pretty interesting and really fun, like what could be a better way of killing your opponent than with a bunch of mirror tokens. So number 3 on our list, Mirror Incubator. Number 2 on our list is Proteus Staff. And Proteus Staff might not be the most out of nowhere selection. I think people somewhat know what this card is, but it's basically an repeatable polymorph artifact. And the reason this card is exciting is it gives us redundancy with a polymorph type effect. So if you don't know polymorph, you just sack a creature and you kind of randomly go from the top of your library. The next creature you hit goes into play. So you can cheat an Emrakul, a Grizzlebrand, something like that into play by sacrificing, Lingering Souls token, I don't know, something like that, some random token. So there is a deck building cost to playing polymorph, and that is that you need to make sure that the creature you hit off your polymorph or your Proteus Staff is the creature you want. So you gotta play only the creature that you want to hit with your Proteus Staff. The thing about Proteus Staff, though, it's kind of like Atog and Ravenous Intruder. Having that along with polymorph gives the deck a ton of redundancy with that effect. So picture this. You have something that makes tokens on turn 1, on turn 2. That part shouldn't be too tricky. On turn 3, you can play Proteus Staff. Turn 4, you get an Emrakul. If you don't have Proteus Staff, you do whatever on turn 3. Turn 4, you polymorph a token, get your Emrakul. So this gives you 8 ways of getting your Emrakul, and there's more than enough ways to make tokens on turn 2 and turn 1. So this combo should be really consistent if you throw in Proteus Staff along with the polymorph. So number 2 on our list, Proteus Staff for polymorph shenanigans. Number 1 on our list, and I bet you aren't going to predict this one. Number 1, Mass Hysteria. So Mass Hysteria is not a great Magic card, but it does what it does better than any other card in Magic. I know, Concurrent Crossroads, whatever, green version, not legal in Modern, but 1 mana, all of your stuff, and your opponent's stuff, but all of your stuff gets haste, is oozing with potential. And there's been tons of times where I've almost built a deck around this. I don't know the best way to abuse it, but one thing that I've been thinking about is it has crazy synergy with Cryptolithrite. So if you get a Mass Hysteria down, let's say on turn 1, turn 2 you Cryptolithrites, that means that all of your creatures are Birds of Paradise with haste, which means that if you play a Memnite, you are actually netting a mana. It's like a ritual. It's like you cast a Desperate Ritual. Same thing is true of Burning Tree Emissary. So any creatures like that actually generate mana and generate storm count. And that could get you up to something like Paradox Engine. And once you start untapping all of your stuff, you just have insane amounts of mana. And then you have stuff like Beck Call or even big creatures that allow you to draw whenever a creature comes into play. So this gives you the potentiality of literally just playing your entire deck on turn 2, which seems really powerful. Of course, you need very specific pieces. You need the Mass Hysteria, you need Cryptolithrites, eventually you're going to need ways to draw cards, so there's a lot of moving pieces there. But if you're ever playing a deck where you think, I need to give my stuff haste, and you're playing in Modern, Mass Hysteria is the most efficient way of doing that. It's almost like when we played the Marvelous Paradox deck in Standard, this would have been the card we would have used to give all of our finishers haste if this was legal in the format, because it's just so efficient and so good at what it does. And even though there's some downside of giving your opponent's creatures haste too, like other symmetrical cards, your opponent's not building to have haste. Sure, maybe their Scavenging Ooze gets to get in for 2 right away, something like that, but your deck is likely going to be built to have some degenerate combo that takes advantage of Mass Hysteria, so even though it's symmetrical, you're going to come out ahead when you play the Mass Hysteria. Anyway, that's been our hidden treasures for Mirrodin. Top 5 cards that have some hidden potential, so let me know, what do you think of these cards? Where do these cards fit? Atog, Trash for Treasure, Proteus Staff, Mirror Incubator, Mass Hysteria. Where do these cards fit? What can we do with them? Also, take a look at Mirrodin. Go to the set page, see what cards are in there, and let me know what else has hidden potential. What other Brew Around Me cards are in the set that just no one is using right now, and how can we take advantage of them? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.